How to get success with online dating as a Christian. If you are looking to meet your godly spouse, the love of your life, the one that God has for you, stay tuned because I have all the tips and tricks. A lot of people say that online dating doesn't work or that it sucks, but it's probably because they did it wrong, just like I did at first. Some people even try to discourage Christians from doing online dating, but if it wasn't for online dating, I wouldn't have met my future husband. This is me looking cute but single. And this is me now, all happy. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to create a profile that attracts men in, how to filter through the nonsense and avoid red flags. I'm going to show you how to know if a man is interested in that. Also, how to avoid burnout and discouragement, which is something that I especially dealt with. And most importantly, how to include God in this process, because we all know God is the X factor. So first, let's talk about your profile. Because obviously, when people are looking at you, they don't know anything about you at all. Your profile is what's going to speak for you. So it is extremely important. The first thing we're going to talk about is your photos. Men are very visual creatures, so you want to present your best self out there. Make sure that you have a full body photo from head to toe. Men want to know what your general physique look like, so you don't want to hide that. Put in a nice face shot that show your best features, whether it's your eyes, your smile, maybe you have really nice hair. Show it off, girl. You also want to do videos or photos that show different sides of you. So maybe one of them can be you at the gym. Maybe another one can be you in loungewear. And then my favorite is you in a look that's kind of date night. So it gives them an idea of what you would look like if you guys went on a date. Some things to avoid is you want to avoid any photos that are not an accurate representation of who you are today. So avoid posting photos that are from more than 5 or 10 years ago. I personally think it's really good to post a photo that is within that same year or a year and a half. You also want to avoid way too much makeup. You want to look as much as yourself as possible. For me, one of the things I did is make sure I showed my natural hair. I used to wear wigs a lot and I would wear my hair in a lot of different hairstyles, but I made sure that at least in one of my photos, I was showing my natural hair so that they know what I look like in my most natural state. When it comes to the order of your photos, make sure that your best photo is number one, and ideally it is a full body photo. I feel like I got so much success doing it that way. You want to present yourself like what you're trying to attract. So since we're trying to attract serious, marriage-minded Christians, that means you want to avoid posting overly provocative photos or photos where all you're doing is wearing a bathing suit. I know this can sound a little controversial, but I personally know a girl at my job that she posted at least 3 photos of her wearing a bathing suit, and that severely hindered her profile because all she was getting was likes from men who were not serious at all. I'm actually going to show you me and my boyfriend's profile so you have an idea of what I looked like when I attracted him. The first one I had was actually a full body photo, and this was very successful for me. And I think having a voice note is really great because when people hear your voice, they get a sense of your personality and kind of who you are. I wrote that I prefer voice notes and FaceTime because I'm actually not the best texter. So I knew that if I did have a quality match, that I would have a higher success of things going well if him and I FaceTime or voice note. So here is a face shot. I used to wear a lot of braids. And this was the photo that my boyfriend actually matched on me with, which was actually the picture of me with natural hair, a picture of me in the gym, and then me and my siblings. You want to avoid writing negative, resentful paragraphs. Men have showed me of women that have put in their profile,
if you're a liar, a cheater, a manipulator, don't even bother liking my profile. Don't even waste my time.
And I get it, you're trying to avoid bad men, but what ends up happening is that good men steer clear of you because it sounds like there are things you need to be healed on, and they're thinking that you're going to bring your past hurts and pains into the relationship. Another thing to avoid is entitled paragraphs on how you expect to be treated.
I'm looking for my Boaz, so 5-star restaurants only. I expect for us to use valet. Flowers when you meet me at the door. And yes, all of this even though you don't know me. If you're not coming correct, don't come at all.
Men are going to be so turned off because you're going to seem super high maintenance and like you're a gold digger. And the last tip for your profile is to be yourself. You want the man who likes you to be truly attracted to who you are, not who you pretend to be. Next, how to filter through red flags and any nonsense. If you are coming for a godly husband, you need to be very intentional about this. You can't be playing around. So one of the essential things you need to do is to put on a Christian filter. When you do that, yes, you eliminate a bunch of options, but you're getting rid of also 50% of the nonsense. That being said, not everyone who says they're Christian really is, so this is when discernment has to come into place. If a man writes in his profile that he is not looking for anything serious, or he says stuff like, oh, we'll see where this goes, oh, I'm not really looking for anything, but I don't know, he's bored. He's telling you he's bored and he's here to be entertained. Marriage-minded men won't always say that they're looking for marriage, but they'll never deny it. Something that was a key for me is to focus on the men that pick you. This is going to sound a bit controversial, but on the last time I downloaded Hinge, I actually didn't like any man's profile. So what I would do is that I would see what type of men were available and I would just X them, and I wouldn't like any of them. But at least it gave me an idea of like what type of men were out there. And then I would only interact with the men who first liked me. The thing about men is that if a woman likes them and they're bored, or the girl that they're really into hasn't matched with them yet, they'll entertain that girl until the girl they like matches with them. But on the flip side, women for the most part are extremely picky, and statistics even show that. So for you to match with a man, that means you are probably very interested in him. Another reason is because you want the dynamics to be in your favor. Men are typically built to chase. So when a man likes you first, you're allowing him to chase you, you're allowing him to pursue you, and it makes him feel like he won a prize when he actually matches with the woman he liked. One of the ways you can know if a guy's really into you is how fast he's trying to get you off the app and into an actual date. If you notice that you are messaging and texting a guy and you guys are staying on the Hinge app for over a week, he's not trying to get your Instagram or your phone number, that is a huge red flag. This is how the timeline went with me and my boyfriend. Him and I matched on Hinge on the first day. Within that first day, he asked for my Instagram. The next day comes, we are sending voice notes on Instagram, and he asks for my phone number. The next day comes, he has my phone number, and we're sending voice note, and we're FaceTiming at that point. On that FaceTime, he sets it up so we can go on a date. So within that week, and really within like 4 to 5 days, he had taken me from being on the Hinge app to being on an actual date. This showed me that he was very intentional, that he was pursuing me, and that he was genuinely interested in me. Another thing I noticed is that he was very responsive. It didn't take him hours and hours to respond to a text or to a voice note. This showed me that he was prioritizing me, and it also showed me that most likely he wasn't really talking to all these girls because he was spending all this effort on me. If you notice that a guy is kind of here or there and he's taking very long, that probably means he's juggling multiple women, and that's why you're not able to get all of his attention. Now we're going to talk about how to avoid burnout and discouragement. This was a very big thing for me because I had downloaded Hinge like 2 to 3 times before I finally downloaded it this last time and met my future husband. And you don't know when exactly you'll match with that person. My boyfriend was on the app for a full year before he finally matched with me. Versus me, I had downloaded the app and I had matched with him within the 3rd day. That means you just don't know when the person could create a profile or be within your area. Another piece of advice is to take breaks. Don't be on the app every single day and checking it several times. Maybe check it twice a day. And if you start noticing that you're seeing the exact same amount of people on the app, take a break for a week or 2 and then log back in. That way you see a new batch of people. You may go on some failed dates before you finally meet the one. I know for me and my boyfriend, we went on at least 3 failed dates before we finally met each other. So don't be discouraged just because you're not meeting the one within your first attempt. We're now going to talk about my favorite and most essential part, which is including God in the process. I'm going to be honest with you guys, you can do all the tips and tricks that I told you, but if you are not including God in this process, you are probably not going to succeed because for me, God was the X factor. God is the one that made the difference between me failing and me having a success. God is the divine matchmaker. He knows where you are and he knows where your future spouse is, and he knows how to divinely connect you guys together. The first thing you need to do is pray. You need to ask God to help you and your partner find each other and match with one another. Ask God to give you discernment, because there are going to be some counterfeits that come up, because the enemy knows that you're looking for your divine spouse. So he's going to throw in some fake people to distract you and to pull you away. You want to ask God to cleanse your heart and to cleanse your mind so that you're not seeking for worldly traits in your husband. Instead, you're seeking for godly traits in him. You also want to ask God to get rid of any unreasonable expectations that you're expecting from your future spouse. Because for me, I actually had a husband list, and if I had stuck to that list tooth and nail, I would have missed out on my man. I would have definitely missed out on him. Not because he didn't meet most of the qualifications on the list, but because some of the things that I had on the list, he just wasn't there yet. Like for me, it had to do with his career. Like I had wanted a man who was already into his career and was already done with college, because I was already done with college. But when I met him, he was actually in law school, and I'm actually grateful that I met him in the process, because since I got to see him in law school, I got to see his resilience, I got to see his hard work ethic, I got to see how disciplined he was, and all of these things that I got to see made me even more attracted to him. Now, this tip that I'm gonna give you is a game changer, and that is fasting. Before I had downloaded Hinge for the last time, I actually completed a 21-day Daniel fast, which, by the way, if this video has been helpful to you, please like and subscribe, because I'm actually gonna be posting a video on how to do a Daniel fast and also the benefits of fasting, because fasting is essential to removing any demonic delay, to removing any confusion from the enemy, to removing any obstacles that could stand between you and your future husband. I truly believe that because I fasted and asked God to place his hand over my efforts, I was able to meet him within the 3rd day of me being on an app. I think that was divine acceleration. That being said, because you are including God in this process, you want to avoid overly spiritualizing dating. I feel like a lot of people take a fleshly approach when it comes to discerning whether or not a person is their spouse. They're expecting fireworks and butterflies and rainbows and explosion. And the truth of the matter is that you cannot go off of your feelings to know whether or not someone is your husband. The Bible says that the heart is deceitful above all things. Who can know it? That word deceitful means misleading, fabricated, and lying. And I think that's 100% true, because ladies, how many times have you looked at a guy and fabricated an entire fantasy about how this man would be and how he could be your husband and how things could work? Why? Because the heart is deceitful. How many times have you lied to yourself thinking that this person was good for you when actually they ended up breaking your heart?
I love him. I know him, y'all. I know him.
You cannot go off of feelings to decide whether or not this person is for you. You have to go by the word of God. You have to go by the Bible, and you have to pray so God can give you the discernment to be able to pinpoint anything that the enemy could be using to make you blind. Write in the comments below any piece of advice that I mentioned today that really resonated with you. May the Lord make your efforts successful. Yes, may he make your efforts successful. My name is Nelly, and thank you guys for watching.